damn. It's chocolate.
How disappointing.
Remember the good old days when it was a fresh heart, so you knew they really cared? This is what I get for ordering online and not directly from Valentine's Bluffs.
Valentine's just isn't what it used to be.
That's it. I'm calling Harry Warden. Maybe he can overnight one for us. Hello, Harry. How's the mines? Welcome horror lovers, fans, and fiends to Screams and Queens Horror Movie Review. I'm LaShay.
And I'm Avery Knight.
On this show, we will be blending our love of drag with our love of horror films. We'll give you a little background on the films, share a few spoilers, and give our unsolicited opinions because why not?
There will be blood,
laughter,
and looks.
As today is Valentine's Day, we decided to start off with one of the most iconic cult slasher films in movie history.
My Bloody Valentine.
Grab yourself a box of chocolates and let's get into it. All right, everyone. Welcome to our room. This is where all the horror movie magic goes down. So we're going to talk about My Bloody Valentine. My Bloody Valentine was released on February 11th, 1981 as a Canadian slasher film that was written by John Beaird and directed by George Mihalka. This film was released by Paramount Pictures and was hit pretty hard by the MPAA for its gore and pretty horrific content at the time. 9 minutes of the original film was taken out and it wasn't seen for quite some time. But luckily now, these days, you can actually catch it on DVD and you can see a good portion of it, not the full 9 minutes, but you can see a really good portion of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the gore. We're going to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes and kind of the effects it's had on horror and the cult following that it's built up over the years. So let's go. There is a miner who wears a gas mask. His weapon of choice is a pickaxe. And he kills a number of people during this Valentine's dance. There's initially a woman killed, and then there's this explosion, and ultimately he becomes a cannibal, and he's like eating people to survive, but apparently that just really drove him over the edge even further, so he kills a couple of other people in this town. Is ultimately apprehended. He's sent to a psych ward, out of sight, out of mind. They don't want to deal with him anymore in this town, but they do away with the Valentine's dance just out of respect for the people lost and the fear that something like that can happen again. So the rest of the film takes place 20 years later, and at this point, you got a whole new group of people, folks who were, kids then are grown now, and they've got their own lives, and they're trying to bring back this Valentine dance, and killer strikes again, y'all. And it's bloody, it's gory, it's horrific, it's visually stunning, and worth a watch. All right, fun facts about this film. So it was originally supposed to be called The Secret, but Paramount Pictures wanted to stay on theme with the holiday horror trend. So, like Friday the 13th and Black Christmas. So they changed it to My Bloody Valentine, which was
Fitting.
Very.
They filmed this in the Sydney mines in Nova Scotia. They were actually 2,700 feet underground in real mines, so there was a lot of methane gas, so they weren't really allowed to. Were they allowed to stay down there for a certain period of time?
Not for long
or they had
periods
to
of
come up
times.
and come out of the mines for certain periods while filming,
Yeah.
because it wasn't an easy place to film a movie in.
Something really cool, the crew, production, they kept the identity of the killer secret from the actors because they wanted the actors to kind of just play their roles and not really try to delve too deep and give any tells away that any one of them were the killer. So they kept it a secret from them until the end of shooting, and then they all kind of found out together, which was cool because, again, that kind of adds a level of mystery even for the actors, because like the suspicion, like, oh my god, who is it? Which is pretty cool. As we mentioned, there's a lot of gore in this film. That's kind of like the main selling point of any slasher film. That's why we watch them. That's why we love them. Gotta love a good kill count. So let's talk about some of the most wild and gory scenes of this film.
First kill, basically, they go into the mine. They're right there. You just think it's two normal miners, and it just turns out that one is a female, and she starts undressing and starts getting her swerve on with the miner and everything. And just when you think that they're about to get everything together, bam! He throws her on the pickaxe that's right next to the wall. Great start to a film, I would say, for sure, just with the kill itself.
There was a number of criticism for how the movie kind of somewhat reflected John Carpenter's Halloween. I mean, and it does, if you watch the scene, it makes sense in terms of when the killer is stalking her. It does go very much to that POV that we're used to in the Halloween films. The breathing, even though the breathing was like definitely like if Michael Myers smoked a lot of cigarettes.
It was still very reminiscent of the look of that vibe, for sure.
And they didn't really stick with that throughout the rest of the film, but they had that particular scene that did follow along with that. But he basically stalks Mabel for a moment. She gets this box of chocolates. There's a note inside. It's very Valentine's, but it pretty much, clues her in that she's about to die. And then she does. And one of the scenes that didn't make it into the original cut that is on the DVD is you ultimately see her like spinning around in the dryer. Which is just kind of ironic considering she ran the laundromat, but also just pretty tragic because she was a really lovable character. So
also triggered because my brother put me in a dryer when I was
little. So triggered. All right, R.I.P. Mabel.
There is another amazing kill in this movie that really caught my attention because I was really shocked at how he did it. So there's a character, Sylvia and John, and they are basically like two characters that have a romantic kind of thing going on with each other. They're dating. So they go back into this kind of, is it a warehouse or like a...
It seems like the back of like a rec center.
Yeah, like the back of like a rec center, and they really, so he goes away because she wants beers, basically. She says, I think this would be better if we have 2 beers. So he goes back to the dance, back to the party, and that's where everyone is. That's where they're all drinking. And then he gets the beers from the party. But while this is happening, the coal miner is there. And she starts looking because there's things that are hanging from the ceiling that look very reminiscent of the coal miner and the costume that he has on. And so there's a lot of black draping fabrics and stuff. And he basically comes out of nowhere, starts up the shower, starts up the water, and basically picks her up and smashes her head basically over the shower head itself. So then the shower is literally spraying water from this girl's mouth, Sylvia's mouth, and it's just probably one of the most iconic kills in the movie. Absolutely, hands down.
So, there's another kill that definitely deserves mention in this. I mean, I think they all do. They're all very creative, but this one was just, it was hurtful because I related to this character on a deep spiritual level. He just wanted to eat. He was hungry. He went to the kitchen to try to get a snack.
That part.
He found hot dogs. They were boiled hot dogs, which is not my vibe. But like, you're hungry. What have you? They're there. And he was trying to get a hot dog. And the killer just comes up behind him, grabs him, puts his head into the boiling pot, and it's rough.
And holds him down and keeps holding him.
And then there's just floating hot dogs and stuff. It's like one of those commercials. I forget what commercial it is, but they're just like throwing hot dogs and it's hitting a person's face. I think it's commercial. I may be wrong. Maybe it was a dream, a wet dream. Okay, so some of the footage that was never recovered. So there is a couple at one point that separates. When they're in the mines, they separate from the group, which you should never do, but they always do in these horror movies. I'm black. I don't subscribe to separating from the herd. But basically they go off to do their thing, to have a good time. And they're killed off screen. So basically they're both impaled, which, you know, you see in other horror movies. That happened in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and with Nancy and Estes. But in this particular case, due to the MPAA, they did not actually show it. And this footage was never released. George Mihalka says he does recall filming it. He did film it. So the footage is there, but they never got a hold of it. Even when the film was released in 2009 with a number of the scenes that had been cut, they did not have that scene. So they are killed off screen. So, I mean, if you can imagine, just like seeing them when they're discovered is rough.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine what that scene really looked like, especially given the effects that they had. Like, they had some pretty. I love the effects personally.
Great effects,
they did a really, really great job in all of the effects of the kills.
Absolutely.
So it would have been fascinating to see it. I mean, hopefully we'll have the chance to someday if it just is discovered. If Paramount releases it, fingers crossed, y'all. Opens the door. It's the killer, and he takes a pickaxe, like, up through his head, like through the chin, up out of his eye bulges out. Wild. That actually happened to my aunt once. Like, she wasn't pickaxed, but her eye did pop out once. One in particular, the guy kind of had it coming, so we won't even give him his moment. But he did. He abandoned the girls in the mines, like, by themselves. Another one of the deaths was like, you know, she was a sweet character, but she was very much like Carly in Wrong Turn. Like, she just wouldn't stop crying. Like, didn't run when she needed to run. She was not useful, so she took a pickaxe to the gut. And honestly, sorry, girl. She did not have final girl quality at all. She did not have it.
She was not a final girl.
She was not a final girl.
The ultimate kill count of this film is 16.
Woo! We talked a little bit about the censorship of this film and how originally like 9 minutes had been cut from it. Part of the reasons for this are Paramount didn't really want to get the same backlash that they had received the year prior with Friday the 13th. Also, George Mihalka mentioned that after John Lennon's death, there was kind of a big uproar when it came to horror in film and television, so people were really fighting against it, which is another reason why a good portion of this film and the scenes were cut. Ultimately, this was a film with a budget of $2.3 million, and it only grossed $5.7 million, so it didn't do well in the box office. Reviews weren't entirely great. There were complaints that it was kind of another ripoff of Halloween. There was, say that it was just kind of like dark and dismal. It didn't really have much plot. The actors or the characters themselves didn't have enough connection, which was rough. I mean, as a viewer, I definitely appreciate kind of the pace of the film. I personally appreciated the overall vibe. With the release of the additional footage, I appreciate kind of the kills and the kill count and everything. Were the characters the most fleshed out? Was the chemistry the most there? Not entirely. I mean, you have this love triangle between TJ, Sarah, and Axel.
Yeah.
And it's not Jacob, Bella, and Edward.
No.
Not at all. Like, you don't really feel this tension between the three of them. With the exception of Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, where we all know very obviously who the killer is. There are films like My Bloody Valentine, Scream, what have you, where most of the fun is in unmasking them. It's very Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that moment to see who is the killer, who's behind all of this. In this particular film, they do set you up. As I mentioned, the cast did not know who the killer was, so none of them were playing it too
Mm-hmm.
obvious. You can speculate, you can guess. They're also giving you this impression this entire time that Harry Warden is still the active killer. The idea is that he escaped from the mental institution and was back in killing everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, they do find out that Harry Warden was dead. He died in the mental institution, so he wasn't the killer. And people start dropping like flies, so it starts to make the pool a little less obvious. There's points where Axel disappears,
Yep.
there's points where TJ disappears,
yep.
so they're both gone at any given time when the killer's around, so you're like, who is it? Who's responsible? We don't know. But we do find out. As we should with the end of these movies. She pulls the mask off just to see who the killer is. And it's Axel! Plot twist! Oh my goodness. Basically they revealed that Axel had experienced the trauma of watching Harry Walden kill his father
when he was a young child.
That apparently made him want to do the same things. Psychological break, poor guy. And that's what started him on the killing, with the pressure of the return of the Valentine dance in Valentine Bluffs. And there's a cave-in. Axel gets like debris all over, smashed, what have you.
Does he lose an arm?
He's dead. Yes, he ultimately loses an arm. So what
yeah.
happens is he ends up cutting off his own arm, which they don't play in all of the media, but he does. If you watch the wrong version, you won't see this, but he does actually cut off his own arm. And they're kind of like watching him from the other side of this rubble, debris. There's at this point a lot of other miners there. There's law enforcement, so they're not alone, but TJ's holding Sarah and they're watching as Axel like goes off without an arm, and he's like just
maniacally
laughing,
cackling and laughing, and
which is like
guttural laughs, and just it's really kind of scary and creepy, really, his laugh at the end. I thought that was the most terrifying kind of scary part of it.
Sarah, be my bloody Valentine.
This is the point in our review where we give it our horror rating. Now, our horror rating is what we call the 7 realms of horror hell. Now, what this is, it's a scale from 1 to 7, 1 being meh, 2 being camp, 3 being chills, 4 being thrills, 5 is gorgeous, 6 is absolutely terrifying, and 7 being horrific. So, what would you give this film?
I would honestly give it a 5, gorgeous, because I think it's a very gory film. I do think it comes through with the gore. I think it's very upfront, right from the beginning. You're instantly set into gore. He puts a girl on a pickaxe right in the beginning of the movie. It's very gory, but I think it's also a gorgeous movie. It's Valentine's Day. It has a great story throughout the whole thing. I think it's a really great movie, so I'm going to put it at 5. Gorgeous.
Same, 5. I would say the gore factor is there. It's everything you want in a slasher film, and yeah, gorgeous it is.
Absolutely.
What would y'all rate this on that scale?
Tell us in the comments below, please. We would love to hear what you guys have to say and where you guys would place it on your own rating scale.
Let us know. For those of you who are also horror lovers, you know how it is when you love a movie. Like, you really, really love it. You want to tell all your friends about it. You'd recommend it, but you wouldn't want to recommend something bad. But then there's also those cases where, you know the movie is bad yourself. That might be why you love it. It's true. But
or why you want to recommend
it. You know, because there's some that you would tell your friends, do not watch this, never watch it. Then there's even ones that you're like, okay, this movie is crap, but you have to see it, okay? Or there's just, you love it, you stand by it, and you're just like, you gotta watch this movie, you're gonna love it, what have you. So, let's get into that. Would you recommend this movie?
Honestly, I would. I think for horror people and horror fans and fanatics, I think that it's kind of our duty to watch the ones that are like Valentine's Day, Halloween, Black Christmas. Like, it's just kind of, I mean, if you're a fan, you're a fanatic, I say yes. I say go for it. I say watch them all. Why not?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I have watched some I've watched some stuff. Okay, I've watched some horrendous movies. I don't think this is a horrendous movie. I think it's actually good. Again, if you're just in it for the gore, like there's some movies we watch purely for the gore.
Oh, absolutely.
There's some horror films we watch for the storyline. There's some that we've just watched the whole franchise, even if it has gone to crap, and we consistently watch it. And that's just what it is. I would recommend this movie.
Yeah.
And I'd say give it a whirl. Like if you wanted to say that you have watched one of the like films with the biggest cult following, because it really does. Like this is a film you will hear about every single year, whether it's just because of the fact that it was an incredibly gory film, whether it was because, you know, the mystery of the lost footage and still some of that being lost, or if it's purely because when Valentine's rolls around and you want to watch a movie on theme, you only have 3 options and this is the first of the bunch. Hey, you know, I would recommend. Very much.
Absolutely. Me too.
So if you want to watch the film that Quentin Tarantino himself calls his favorite slasher flick, check out My Bloody Valentine, 1981. You may regret it, but you might love it. We have no clue. So that's it, y'all, for our first review. This is our first time. It's our first try. It's kind of wild doing this in drag. Because there's a lot more work that goes into that, just like getting into drag alone. But yeah, we kind of have our general format of how we want to do this, but we also are very chaotic and ADD. So filming this is very choppy. So we're going to see how well it comes across in the editing, how much y'all like it. We would love your feedback if you enjoyed it, if you didn't enjoy it, what have you. Drop a comment. Let us know if you did enjoy it, though.
Yes.
Give us a like, subscribe, share it. We appreciate it. If you didn't like it, subscribe anyways, so you can just troll us. Like, that's, I mean, why
haters
not?
Are haters, and we love them too.
We love it. Just engage. We love it. We love our community. We love the horror community, and we're just really excited to do this project to blend our loves of drag and the horror film genre. And if you have any suggestions on what you might want to see us review, feel free to drop those names of those films in the comments, and anything we have not done or have not got a chance to get around to and seems like a fun one, we'll get to it. So.
And we also want you guys to follow the Screams and Queens Instagram, because that's something that we definitely want to kick off the ground and kickstart. So we're so excited to do this, and yeah, I'm excited for the next one.
Yes, thank you so very much for joining us for Screams and Queens.